Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you all for being here. Dr. Pilkey, could you just briefly explain the difference between cloud seeding and geoengineering?
I'll give you the broad brushes, but cloud seeding is an effort to modify precipitation over a small scale. Geoengineering is an effort to counter the effects of human-caused climate change at the planetary scale.
Got it. And last July, as you know, there were catastrophic floods in Texas. Have you seen any evidence to suggest that cloud seeding contributed to those floods, exacerbated the problem, or had any impact on them?
I'll defer to Chris, who's talked about that in his testimony.
Sure.
Hi, Congressman. There is no evidence that, while there is, let me backtrack here. While there is evidence that cloud seeding can be effective, there's also evidence that it's not as effective. So there's very inconclusive results in literature on it because natural variability is so large. As far as the Texas floods go in particular, I think the cloud seeding, the company that was accused of it was Rainmaker, if I'm correct on that. But when they did cloud seeding activities, they did it, I think, 2 days before the rain began, and it was 150 miles southeast of Houston, Texas, or not Houston, San Antonio, if I'm correct on that. Which means that in terms of the Texas Hill Country, there was no way for that cloud seeding to have had any material effect on the floods.
Got it. And Mr. Martz, I'll continue with you. Are you familiar with the butterfly effect?
Yes, I am.
Okay, got it. Kind of the foundational principle of chaos theory that small changes in initial conditions in a complex system can have second, third, fourth order consequences that are seemingly unpredictable. How do you think about that concept being applied to weather seeding? Small changes in a complex system, and how can you understand, or how can we get comfortable that there aren't going to be third, fourth order impacts of potentially much larger magnitude?
Well, I think that there are, again, obviously very much large uncertainties about it, and obviously some more research into it needs to be done, probably on a modeling effort, but trying to, I think that to do it as far as the environmental impacts of it in particular need to be studied, especially with silver iodide and how it affects our water tables and our soil, because there's definitely concerns about that. And I think there needs to be more laboratory studies on that and more research that's funded to do that kind of thing.
Given the complexity of the issue here and how large that this problem is, how do you study something like that?
No, I think that you would employ a group of scientists and do some sort of bipartisan effort to look and see what we know about it, and to do a comprehensive, thorough report that would be people from different perspectives that come together and discuss and mesh out the details, and then conduct experiments on it. Because in science, you can't just use even modeling. You also have to test things and do it through a laboratory experiment to have observations, because all science is numbers.
Got it. And Dr. Pilkey, back to you. It's been reported that China spent $2 billion in the past decade on weather modification activities. How could an adversary use weather modification for nefarious purposes?
Yeah, this is a great question, and also gets to your last question as to why we want to understand effectiveness. Because if it's not effective, then they're not going to be able to do much with it. And so this is why, as I said in my testimony, let's start with the questions that Chairwoman Green had in her first 5 minutes of questioning. Fantastic questions. You guys have the National Academy of Sciences at your disposal where you can ask exactly these questions. And a great question would be, given what we know about weather modification, what could our adversaries and enemies put it to use, and how would we know it? I will also say this is one reason why it's really important to make sure that the observations and monitoring of our atmosphere is fully funded, not just for scientists to do research, but so that we can...
What is your opinion on how an adversary could use weather modification?
So my understanding is that weather modification is not particularly effective. And so based on that level of knowledge, not much. But it's certainly something that I would want a range of experts to weigh in on, given that we don't know what's going on in China and elsewhere.
Got it. Thank you. Madam Chair, I yield back the remainder of my time.